ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another fabulous and fun episode of Stories Around Azeroth. I am always, as Pete Titans Creed Nethercoot, joined by the soon-to-be, mechanized gnome of Azeroth himself, the one, the only, Mr. Frazley Tastic. How are you today, sir?
I am doing awesome.
Interesting. No, seriously, good week?
Oh, it's been a great week, except for all the work that went on and all the stuff at work. So game time was a little brought back a little bit, but I'm thinking like in game I'm working on Rustbolt. I got my Mecha Spider. I'm trying to think of what else I got.
From the quest? Or did you get the
yeah.
drop?
No, the quest. So I got the one on the quest, and I finally got the gramophone. So I'm working on all the Mechanome stuff, trying to get farther up there. No new mountain drops, I don't think, but it's been other than that, it's been a good week.
That's cool to hear. Very good to hear. I'm okay. I mean, I've just started a new job this week, so like my time in game has been massively reduced, but we've still found time to come and record at the usual time, live over on twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions. Come and join us on Sundays. It is fun.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise than that, it's been a fun week. What have you done other than that in Azeroth this week, my friend?
Like other games, or just
No, just have you done anything else in this fabulous world of Warcraft?
looking up my notes because I have a whole bit. Oh yes, so I ran Shadowfang Keep with a group on
Classic.
On Classic, yes, and our tank. This was awesome. Our tank was named Bully Maze.
Okay.
And I actually ran into them on the Zeppelin before we were in the group, and I said, "Hey, do you have any cleaning detergent for my daggers?" He gave me heavy sharpening stones.
That's amazing. That's pretty cool. What are you leveling on Classic again? Please remind me.
I'm doing a gnome mage and a undead rogue. Sorry, the race was forsaking my memory.
Some days. Jesus Christ. How was Shadowfang Keep? How did you find the classic version of it?
It was really good. Like I was glad that I listened to Ali's Dungeon Fables episode because I understood the lore better. We didn't die, so our group did. Well, no, I'm thinking Dead Mice. The Dead Mice didn't die. We did die a few times on Shadowfang Keep, but it's one of those. There's a few rooms you got to pull the mobs from the other room. And our tank did not do that, so they didn't know that. So there are a few close calls. We also got to watch for patrols in Shadowfang Keep, and that was not happening right. So a few times we're like, "Hey, we're bringing friends in. It's a party."
Yeah, it gets a little bit tricky at times if you don't overlevel the dungeons. But yeah, no, I'm glad you had fun. What's next? Are you going to keep going? Is it Razorfen Downs? And
I think that's the next one because I think that's the thorny place, right?
Yeah, the one in front.
Yeah,
the two in the Barrens. Yeah, Cruel. That's the name I was thinking of.
Yeah, or Razor and Crawl. So I'm going to do that. Definitely going to work on my poisons as well. So I got to do that, and primarily I'm going to be working on like retail because I'm trying to get the Vol'jani and the Mechagon reps. So that way I can be ready for the two races because I will be leveling a Vulpure alt on the server with Leowild. And then I will be doing a Mechanome alt. Frazley won't yet be a Mechanome because they can't make the hair all beautiful blue.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of changes to come with 8.3 just yet. And yeah, I mean, we'll get into all the news and bits and pieces shortly. As I said, like my yes, that was the joke. I do pun with the best of them, Mr. Frazley.
I need to give you a pun jar. Here you go.
No, the pun jar is yours and yours only. Think of all of the hamsters we could fund with your pun jar.
Oh, that is right. Yes, and keep the servers online for a lot of EA games.
That's it.
Oh,
I haven't done much. As I said, I've been working. I haven't really done my mount runs except on my main, but I think I'm going to be trying to stream them at some point this week. That's going to be coming soon. I've mostly been working on my last 5 level 110s. And I've been doing a little project to level them all together over the same, so they're all following the same quests. So they all started at 110 this week. They've all done about, I want to say, 4 invasions at this point. They've all done the intro quest to Zuldazar, which was actually, as their first point, a really bad idea. Because it turns out, as Alliance, if you don't do the Vol'dun one, you actually get phased but for a big elite away from quite a few people, and if you've got the world quest or the invasion that's at the base, you know, with the rocket hop thing,
Yeah.
you don't get that world quest option at all if you haven't unlocked the base and you've got access to Zuldazar. So when we had the Vol'dun invasion this week, all of my alts missed out on one world quest. So that was weird, but I've basically done and flown around and done all of the chests on Kultiras as well with them, but I haven't really done anything else. So it's just literally been the invasions and like some of the war campaign. They've just hit 114 tonight. Managed to finish the last invasion with about 10 minutes to spare on the characters, and they're all going to go do Vol'dun next. Even though the next invasion, I think, on Zuldazar is going to be in Nazmir, but I might be wrong. I think it might be actually Zuldazar next. Yeah, it's a fun little project. It does make you want to rip your hair out doing the same quest over and over, rather than focusing on one character.
Is there a reason that you're doing the same line on each instead of varying it up?
Mostly to see how the XP going goes.
Okay.
It's really bizarre because as part of the Drustvar invasion that was up tonight, there's one where you've got to cleanse the farm, and the big mob you kill, with your XP bonus for killing it, you get 10,000 XP. But my hunter got less than 10,000, whereas all the other alts managed to get there. It also is a way to find out what classes you're good at. So far, out of Rogue, Hunter, Paladin, Mage, and Warlock, I really dislike the Rogue and the Mage. I am playing Fire on the Mage though, and I'm playing the Pirate spec on the Rogue. So maybe it might be something that I just switch up the specs on those, and I might enjoy it a little bit more. But I'm playing Destruction on the Warlock, I'm playing Beast Mastery on the Hunter, and I'm playing Retribution on the Paladin. So yeah, it's fine. It's another Paladin, but it's only because I've got my light forged at 120, and I just wanted to just get him done, because then we can start doing... Oh my goodness, how many alts at 120 would that put me at? I've got 2 on Horde. I'm currently at 8 on Alliance, plus another 5. So it'll put me at 15 alts at 120 once I get these 5 done.
And how many do you need for the pizza that I'm going to give you?
18.
Okay.
And my next level below that, after I get these done, is I do have a Horde Paladin at 110, but I can't be bothered to level that at the moment. It'll probably, because now I get into the allied races part of things, and to level those up for heritages. And I think the next one I've got is a Dwarven Death Knight at 62, which I want to try and get to 70 before Time Walking Week. And then I've got my Gnome Warrior at about 58. So I might spec the Death Knight Blood and just do a load of TBC dungeons, and then go into Time Walking TBC dungeons in a week and a bit when that rolls around. So yeah, there's plans there to get stuff done. I'm thinking about a week I'll probably get these 5 to... Because I'm not going to have time to really go at it, although I do have a day off tomorrow. So I might see what I do. Watch this space. We'll talk about it more next week. The news!
Yes.
Lots and lots of news. Because just like Taliesin and Nevertell, when we record a video, it turns out that the news breaks on the next day instead of on a Thursday in a week. So pretty much everything we said last week was massively outdated by the time it launched on Wednesday to the masses. But 8.3, you've probably talked about this in Frazzlecast and all the other podcasts you've been on, so you've probably got a lot more insight from everybody else you've talked to. So we'll speed through it as much as we can. We'll start with the big one, which I'm sure Leo Wild in chat is really happy about. New allied races, Volpira and Mechanome.
Yes, which I'm happy about the Volpira, and I love the Mechanomes. I just kind of wish the Mechanomes, like we said earlier, were a customization of the gnomes. That part is weird, and there was a glitch. I know some PTR for Mechanomes. When you go to check out the leg customizations,
yep,
the camera, the Mechanomes are too short, so the camera doesn't actually show you the leg combinations. You're like, amazing. I think I've seen that. So I reported that to PTR.
There's apparently another bug with Mechanomes right now. If you make a Mechanome Hunter, you don't have the ability to tame mechanized animals at the moment currently.
Interesting.
So, yeah, that's definitely a bug. There's lots of other things. A lot of people are really unhappy with the Mechanomes. It does feel like a bit of a cop-out in comparison to Volpira, even though, as we said ages ago, it uses the Goblin model. That's just recently got updated. We expected it. It's like the worst kept secret in the universe for Volpira. It's a thing.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping, and this is my thing, that with the fact that they've just put Alliance and Horde insignias on the side, that they eventually just turn around and go, you can make any race and you can align it to any faction.
Yeah, because I think with that, how it's going, especially with the story that we saw in 8.2.5, I think that we can definitely see that. And I think it'd be interesting to see what story we get in 8.3 to go with it. I can see 8.3 not being as much story there because the story is focused on what we'll get into in a second.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see that. Because someone said, other than the Pandaren, you know what race it is just by what faction it is just by the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would shake things up a bit, especially for battlegrounds and that sort of thing. But there is a lot of data mined broadcast text. I'm not going to go through it because broadcast text specifically can be held out of context when it's not with the cutscene or the area that you're in. So it can be a little bit. There is a lot of information there. There is some encrypted broadcast text to go with the allied race Death Knights which have been found.
Yes, which is, I could see them doing that to just increase the style, because like most races can be Death Knights. Like I could see them doing that, but it is interesting that they chose to go back and add that in.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. It's something that everybody's wanted for a while. I think that's mostly because it puts allied races at 55 and through classic content, because not a lot of people enjoy going through classic content, even though they just dungeon run it 90% of the time.
I'm gonna guess, knowing this is Blizzard and sometimes their ideas of what fun is, I'm gonna guess that if you have a Death Knight ally race, it will not work for the Heritage armor. That they're gonna be like, it's a special version.
You can definitely unlock stuff for, well, at least you can do it with dwarves and gnomes and Worgen.
Well, yeah, because those main races, you just need it at 120 in the rep. Yeah. Allied races have the different rules, and I can see maybe for the allied races that there's something like, well, we're going to give you an allied race at a higher level, but we're not going to give you the armor. That's just my prediction for that. Or they'll make you go to 120 just to offset that.
No, that would mean they've got to change the achievement data, and they won't do that. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. Some of the combinations there. I mean, we haven't seen all of the allied races as Death Knights yet, but There's some curious ones like Lightforged Draenei as Death Knights. That's very, very curious. So we'll see how it comes. I'm hoping if it does come, it means we'll get a revamp of the Death Knight starting zone, maybe over the Broken Shore.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
But I assume that it might have to do with, you know, a lot of the stuff we're seeing that may take us back to Northrend and everything else. And it really depends on where the story goes at the end of 8.3 and Nyalotha, the Awakened City. Some smaller bits as well. Guardian Druid's Werebear Dance are getting a unique dance. Sorry, I said that really wrong. It's apparently the Herman Pee-wee dance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's a more American thing than it is anywhere else, because we definitely didn't get that over in the UK or anything else.
Yeah, my favorite one is he's looking into a microscope and says, I can look at this. It tells that in the microscope that the naked eye can't see. Oh, my eyes are naked. Ah!
Jesus.
That's just... You did not miss much. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Island expeditions are apparently getting salvage boxes buyable with doubloons. These will be broken down by the island type, so anything that's available on that island in its mixture will do it. It's a long time coming, but it just means that it's going to essentially be the end of islands. There'll be no more updates after this patch.
Makes sense, because I'm going to guess islands will be one of those things that we may see it come back again in the next one, or it may stop here. Because
I think they'll reuse the. Oh my goodness! I can't even remember the original word for the scenario.
Yes,
They'll reuse the scenario stuff down the line with something else. We'll see, I guess. As long as when BFA ends, they put in a legacy option for allow people to one-man it outside of BFA content, because there's a very good chance that you might not be able to, and I'd hate to just go and try and bother a couple of people that aren't interested just so I can go and farm islands.
well, and that would be really disappointing because of all the things that can drop off of it. I mean, it would be nice if they just made it, because there's a lot of doubloons.
I think it has to be a post patch, like a 9.1 patch option, because otherwise there'll be some way to cheese islands for XP from like 90 from 120 plus, or if there's a level switch or anything else. So I think that it'll have to be a 9.1 thing if it happens. Heritage armor for goblins and worgers will finally be in 8.3. Not sure if it's a good or bad, considering that we've had to wait the extra patch for it, but I'll be honest with you, they do not look good. Compare it to dwarves, compare it to gnomes, compare it to... I don't want to even say Tauren, because Tauren just feels like it's just a really shoddy version of the High Mountain Tauren. But compare it to the Blood Elf, compare it to the allied races, they really feel subpar.
I think the Worgen, the one I don't like the shoulders, but I think everything else looks nice. I think the shoulders just make it look a little too gaudy, in my opinion.
You're not wrong. And as chat is saying, Leo Wild is saying that aesthetics is subjective. It's absolutely subjective. But when you've got stuff like a specific armor set working on a Worgen model in Heroes on Greymane, and this apparently being a royal guard garb, it does not look very good. It doesn't look like it sits very well on the model. It looks like it's designed for a human more than it is a Worgen.
I can see that being intentional, because the Worgen are trying to fit into human clothing. So I could see maybe that being intentional design aesthetic.
I think it was just too difficult for them to work on something that looked good on both human and Worgen, and it not being able to transform between the forms to go with it. It's unfortunate, essentially.
Well, I mean, for me, if what I would do is I would just do like the Hulk, where like the human form's all nice, and the Hulk is like, "Argh!" and have like broken seams and stuff like that.
You know what? That would actually be really cool. Thinking about it, but then it's just like with the way the transmog system works, it's you just be looking like a homeless bum around Stormwind.
Oh, true. Or like the how the undead look in their armor.
Yeah, exactly. The biggest bit of information I think that came from the 8.0.3 PTR was an unused Nazjatar map, which looked very interesting. It looked like it was going to have N'Zoth as part of 8.3 phased towards the back area of Nazjatar, which, on initial thoughts alone, I like the idea of, because it means that we go back and use Nazjatar more.
Yes, because I would love to see us go back to some of these zones, and the fact that they brought it further into data shows that they might be waiting to use it for later on, because looking at it, like we were talking about, like the raid of Ny'alotha, and we were hoping that maybe that they're going to show you the raid here and then let you go back to it in the future. So I'm not against reusing zones as long as you get a modified zone, because we're going to be getting reused zones with visions and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think it still looked like a very interesting video. It's over. It was linked on Wowhead when it came up. I found it through YouTube specifically. Frazley's linked it for the live chat. I'll put it in the description on both YouTube and for the podcast itself. I don't know. It's interesting. My biggest concern is, at this point, Ny'alotha is just a raid instance. I personally would have liked another, being able to explore and have it as like the daily quest, world quest hub, and I don't know, would it be good to actually explore Ny'alotha? Like have another Nazjatar thing, like it's open, available to wander around? I don't know. It looks very cool from what I've seen. Like the skybox for Ny'alotha looks amazing.
Yeah, and they can definitely do it because, like, they again, the Siege of Orgrimmar is Orgrimmar, but just in an instance version. So they've done that before with different things.
Yeah, my biggest problem is that with how the skybox looks, when it comes to the raid, there'll be a small part where you'll be outside, and then you'll go inside, and then deeper into the bowels of Ny'alotha, and you won't get to see that amazing skybox and the buildings and everything else. Now that's my biggest regret at this point, is that we'll miss a lot of that aesthetic, and I like it. But speaking of that aesthetic, as you've mentioned already over the space of the cast, horrific visions. There'll be I'm going to call them faceless invasions rather than horrific invasions, because I think it's just a better term for it. They'll be going in the now remade Vale of Eternal Blossoms, and there is somewhere else they're going.
Odom.
Yes, Odom. Thank you very much. 2 big Titan facilities. So it'll be interesting, nonetheless, to see how it goes. There's so much content that it's looking like in 8.3 already in terms of the solo and the multiplayer progression, which is always good to see both. It does look like there's going to be a lot of endgame personal progression, which is something, again, we've touched on recently. Again, it falls into the form of Azeroth specifically, because the next piece will now go up to, I believe, 90 and beyond. It looks like we're getting It looks like we're getting another minor slot, and it looks like we're getting a new major slot at about, that looks to be something closer to Concordance. So there'll be like a permanent Heart of Azeroth to just keep going with. No one's, I mean, it seems to be the least reported on thing right now, which makes me think like it's not fully implemented on the PTR as yet. We'll definitely have some more information in, I think it's 2 weeks at BlizzCon, isn't it? At this point, like, is it? I'm not sure what weekends it is. You know, you're off to Anaheim, aren't you?
Yes, I'll be over in Anaheim. The BlizzCon starts on the 1st and ends on the 2nd.
So it's 3 weekends away, essentially, from when
Yes.
we're recording this. 2.5 by the time it goes live on the podcast feed. I don't know. I don't think we'll see another big PTR patch between now and BlizzCon. I think there'll be a big info dump at BlizzCon for the 8.3 and the expansion at this point.
Where I see maybe the smart move is getting this out of the way for BlizzCon. That way BlizzCon's focus can be on this. They can release the expansion in the opening ceremony. Then what's next can be 8.3. Can here's more details, and then maybe a panel also on what's coming in the expansion.
No, I agree. It's something I've said recently. I can't remember if it was here or just on the internet in general. I think the expansion will be a big launch point in the opening ceremony, and they'll have a what's next, which will be a big deep dive into 8. They might just call it deep dive 8.3, and then I imagine they might just have a deep dive into the next expansion as a separate panel. We'll see. I think we'll have a patch live date. I don't expect the patch to be live until January at this point, mostly because we'll have the new classic phase live, I believe, post BlizzCon before December, because they want to. I think they want everything in that done before Christmas, and then have the Christmas break, come back and do 8.3 in January. I think that's probably the best idea.
Yeah, especially because we're going to be getting the anniversary event to finish off November. We're going to be getting one week of time walking in December, and they're looking to add classic stuff. So I mean, there's plenty of content that they're adding already,
Yeah.
And for the timing wise, they're not going to want to release 8.3 too soon. Otherwise, we would get bored of it and be like, "Hey, where's the content?
Well,
Come on, Blizzard!"
Yeah, you've got to remember that 8.3 has got to last a minimum of 6 to 8 months.
Yes.
Now, bearing in mind that a month before the expansion, we'll probably get the pre-patch. I think we're about 6 weeks before expansion launch, we'll get the pre-patch with an event that will last 2 to 4 weeks again. You know?
And
yeah, go ahead.
and 8.3 is going to have that cliffhanger. I don't see N'Zoth dying in 8.3. I kind of see it being like, "Oh, you think I'm dead? Well, woo!" But Azura kind of did that already, and
So the big rumored ending that I've seen about at this point is that because it's the first fully released, fully powered old god that we're actually fighting, like if you've had a look at the encounter journal so far, we're fighting the body and then we're fighting the soul, essentially. And it seems to be that people think that we're going to defeat N'Zoth, but in defeating N'Zoth, he kills us. All of us. And then that leads into whatever 9.0 is and everything else. As we said earlier, there's a lot of data in my broadcast text. There's a lot of stuff which seems to be spoken post N'Zoth that exists there. So that seems to be the wildly rumoured thing. I hope it's not the end of N'Zoth. If it is the end of N'Zoth, I hope it's not the end of maybe his death brings around the release of the other old gods. I think Azura will play a part in the actual N'Zoth fight, because as rumoured, her third death will bring around their coming. A lot of people think that now points to Azura, since she's technically died during 8.2. There's a lot there. There's a lot there to take in. We'll see as more information comes to us. We'll probably definitely see in a post BlizzCon world. But, you know, a lot of things are pointing that if he kills us all, we're all raised by the return of Bolvar, and then also he's pointing to Northrend and the reawakening of the Lich King. You know, there was some crazy speculation that between the end of Warcraft 3 and Wrath of the Lich King, it was technically 5 years in the game kind of timeline. And then, you know, technically in terms of the game timeline, it's been 7 years since the fall of the Lich King until the next expansion. I've seen the memes already of the break glass in case of emergency, and there's a big Lich King there. It's been quite entertaining seeing all of that stuff surface, because we had that back in Legion where it was Illidan instead. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that is there. There's a lot of stuff that is coming. Rathian with legendary cloaks was a bit lol worthy when I first read it, but you know, it offers a bit of single player progression.
Yeah.
It does seem with the legendary cloaks that you need to really power grind if you really want it that badly. You can tackle the horrific visions in the major cities as often as you want, but to do that you need to go out and be doing the normal invasions to get an item. There's a lot of secondary currencies from what I've seen, like stuff to improve the cloak, stuff to get to go into buy the item to allow you to go into the horrific visions, which seems to go up per the amount you do in a week, and it might reset on the given weekly reset. It's going to be really interesting to see how people go into 8.3 and what they choose to do. I know a lot of the part is going to be on the Azeroth grind, to which point they've nerfed the Rustbolt insignia that gives rep. Now, originally it was just meant for ults. That was the ideal thing, was how it was meant for ults. But people have been stockpiling the insignia to just keep pushing through Paragon boxes for 8.3, and Blizzard have nerfed that on the PTR. So it's quite funny, because essentially it was the Method guys that were storing those up, and someone from Method went, "I don't want to do this, Blizzard, please change this," and he got called a snitch and everything else. It was highly entertaining on the internet, but it seems Blizzard have taken steps to remove that already. So I don't know, I'm getting to the point on my main to try and save up Paragon boxes ready for 8.3. I've got 2 done already. I just haven't been bothered to really do world quests at the moment, and just do gold and rep items from the boxes, from the mission table. I don't know what you think. Are you looking forward to 8.3 based on what we've seen so far?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to the progression stuff in the alts. Like, I like leveling alts, so I'm looking forward to that. I think it's nice to have something that can scale, and especially with the parsing that we got in 8.2.5, it's fun that we are getting stuff that you can be single player or multiplayer. That's the one thing I'm not enjoying in Classic at times, having to group up and stuff. So it is nice and current. I can just go in if I want to solo the game.
I mean, between current and classic, they are two very different beasts of a game.
Yes.
I saw a very interesting video, I think literally today as I was catching up on YouTube, of classic raiding versus modern raiding. It was very much a very interesting video, and it looked at all the pros and cons of everything. You know, how you feel you get like more of a sense of adventure from traveling to the raid dungeons compared to going to the latest zone and flying towards the raid instance.
Yeah.
But the mechanics in current raiding are more in depth, whereas in classic raiding it felt more about the trash giving you problems before you got to the boss, and then once you dealt with the standard mechanics, it's rinse and repeat, with the occasional couple of bosses that are there to just throw you off, like Geddon's Living Bomb was a good example of that. otherwise, like, they talked about raid composition, raid sizes, and 40 men. You didn't really need all 40 people compared to, like, if you go look at Mythics 20, everybody has to pull their weight essentially until you overgear it, and then you can just like let 1 or 2 people stack off. And if you don't have 20 people, you've got an instance which bends to the will of how many people you have in it from 10 to 30. So it's quite an interesting video. If you do look it up on YouTube, it's literally classic versus modern, classic versus retail raiding. It does come from a very classic biased person, as they do play a lot of classic, they mention as such, but they try to look at it very evenly. So it's a good watch. I definitely do recommend it, since we're talking about classic and modern and how differences lie. But it's a very different game, because essentially just the multiplayer facet of classic is your dungeons and your raids. Whereas if you look at retail as it is now, you've got your dungeons and your raids. And dungeons they tried to keep current with Mythic Plus. You've got your islands for 3-player content, and you can do those solo if you want. There's lots more single-player content which they tried to merge with Elite World Quest to get you to do the multiplayer side of it as well. It really, at the end of the day, the game is... There are 2 different versions, distinct versions of the game that are there, available for people depending on how they want to play. You know?
Yeah.
If you enjoy the classic, you can go do classic. If you enjoy the modern, you can go do modern. And you can do the stuff that you do. I personally, as I've said since day one, I'm more of a modern man compared to classic, basically because classic doesn't fit in with my play style and the time I have to give to the game. Because the time I can, as I said earlier, like at the beginning of the show, I can put 2 hours in, I can level 5 alts, and all get them progressed with an XP buff and everything else. Whereas if I spent 2 hours on one character, I'd get a level, maybe 2. So I don't know. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to detract from either version of the game, because it's good for both people. For the people that dislike retail, classic's there. For the people that dislike classic, retail's there. For the people that like to play both, they're both there. It's good. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm the same way, that I think they're different. It feels like you're playing like a different like if you like groups, and if you like running these people on a Zeppelin and running into them later on, I think classic has more of that feel, whereas like in current retail, it's single player with a add-on / pug group, unless you're with a guild. People are at times a little bit more disposable in a mindset in current, whereas in classic, I'm gonna try my hand with somebody a little bit more. I may remember how that person plays, but I'm going to try my hand with them.
I've never really thought of people as disposable in retail, but I presume you mean in the terms of grouping up for world quests.
World quests, if they're not up to your expectations in a dungeon, you can vote kick and then just have somebody else queue in, whereas you worked harder to get that person in classic, so I think you're a little bit more forgiving sometimes.
I think it's less that and more how easy it is to replace somebody.
Okay, yes.
I think it's more if you kick somebody in. Dead Mines probably isn't a good example in classic, because there's lots of people in the 15, not even the 15, the 30 to the 18 level range, because it's been statistically mentioned that is like the average level of a player, and after about 18 to 20 is when like a casual player will probably stop playing because they don't have the time to put in. But if you take Shadowfang Keep, for example, is a good example. If you were to remove somebody from the group, they've got to leave, but then you've got to have one of your party leave to then go to a city and look for somebody else, step outside the instance and see if there's anybody that's in the area that wants to do the questing and everything else. So you've still got to mention it's a dungeon in progress. And even if you do find someone, you've got to wait for the person who left for the city to arrive. You've got to hope that the person who has been kicked out of the party has, disappeared from the dungeon. I think the auto timer's in the game at that point in the game. I'm not 100% sure. I definitely remember versions of Classic where that wasn't a thing and people could just sit in the dungeon and troll. Yes, I remember that, and then nobody else could enter the instance because it was already at a 5-player max instance.
I think I remember that now. Yes. Not in my current Classic, but in vanilla.
Yeah. Whereas in modern, you can kick someone if they're AFK, like at the beginning of the dungeon, and then just like that, essentially, you'll get someone join a dungeon in progress.
Yeah, I remember I got kicked because I was not up to where everybody was one time. I was running to where they were in the map. You could see me moving, but I got kicked because I wasn't exactly where they were. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure how the American players look at things compared to European players and maybe Australian players at a push, because they're obviously on their oceanic servers as well. I've never really... Oh my god, I can try to remember the last time I even kicked somebody, let alone was kicked. Because normally when I play, like I'm playing well, and I feel like I don't understand. I can understand people who join a queue and they're AFK for a queue. I don't understand the people who press yes, I'm here, I accept the dungeon queue popping, and then go AFK. That I don't understand. You're literally there. You've dedicated the time to sit down and play. Like that's what I don't understand. Comes to Classic, if a dungeon can take too long, if you've got people that don't have things that are going to play, people run out of time to play. They don't really necessarily know how long a dungeon will take, but it comes to a dungeon, they'll try and push their time limit a little bit more, and then call it a day after that. But who knows? I don't get it. It's so fun. I never really considered a player expendable.
That's at least what I've heard from other people that I've talked to in current, and I kind of feel that way because I talk more in Classic dungeons. I'm trying to talk more in current dungeons. Sometimes I don't talk to somebody, and I'm like, am I just treating it as if these other are robots? I mean, it's kind of a mentality that I'm questioning on how I treat it.
I think the best way to do it is to not look at it like that. The minute you start having a mind frame like that, you unfortunately look at yourself and other players in that sort of mind frame, and that alone is a big gaping problem. Just because you don't want to look at anybody like that, especially if you want to try and chat. The problem is that people just want to go in modern, and it really doesn't give you a time to chat other than just saying hello and everything else. Sometimes you get people that want to chat, but honestly, I generally find that with Hekelion, I'm following a rotation, I'm doing good DPS if I'm in the right spec and I'm hitting the right buttons. And nobody generally is going to kick you if you're doing, average to good DPS.
Yeah, and you're right. I'm not trying to, like in Final Fantasy 14, get those commendations for my puns. I got commendations for puns often.
You know what? When it comes to Final Fantasy 14, I've had more commendations for just chatting in chat than I do for anything else.
Yeah.
Well, that's just the way the game is. But we've massively gone from 8.3 to classic versus classic. I don't want to say classic versus modern, but classic and modern chat.
Yeah.
It's as the length of the game goes on, and we see how classic develops and continues. I think the conversation will continue.
Yeah.
But it'll be good.
Absolutely.
I think the last thing to really chat about is the 15th anniversary collector's editions have pretty much all gone out. I got mine on Tuesday. No, Tuesday? Wednesday. Mine turned up on Wednesday.
Mine showed up on. Mine was Tuesday because I know I was looking at the box and was like, this box is not one of the boxes I need for this migration. And I opened it up, and it was definitely bigger than I expected. So bigger on the inside. And I have not yet put together Ragnaros because the Ragnaros is still sitting in Seraphim. So he's like the Lich King. I'm Ragnaros, and I am stuck in this box. Get me out of here.
I've taken mine out and it's sitting in the cupboard next to me, like right here, in my glass cabinet. And I've moved like the mini, I can't remember what they're called, the tiny but fierce characters. I've got my tiny Illidan and my tiny Lich King in there with it.
Oh, nice.
I've got my big collector's edition. Yeah, something like that. It's around that sort of size. I've got my big, like, DC figure Lich King and Illidan up there that I really want to get out, but I'm pretty much ran out of space for collectibles at this point of time, so it's fun. I hope everybody else that ordered it got one in the end and everything else. Yeah, but it's fun. The art cards are good. I've got my Alabaster mounts now. Got my 330 days of game time as well. I didn't realise that was coming, so that's pretty nice. That alone, you know.
And I have the mouse pad, but right now I've got a gaming mat that I bought from last year's BlizzCon sale, so I'll have to decide if I. And it's served me well, but yeah, it's a nice map of.
It's a nice map of Azeroth.
Absolutely.
Well, the universe of Azeroth, I should say. Universe of Warcraft, the universe of Azeroth. What am I talking about? I think we're going to call it there. It's been a good episode. The talk on 8.3 will continue as 8.3 develops.
Yes.
As we get more and more information. It's really hard talking about current content while upcoming content without trying to spoil too much, while still talking about the relevant stuff, which is why we didn't talk about the broadcast, the data mined broadcast text, because as I said, it's very hard to discuss that without actually seeing it. And who knows, when it comes out, hopefully I'll have a holiday day or something or a day off that I could just take and I'll stream some of it. I'm sure Fraz will stream some stuff when the patch is out as well. It's generally what we do, because we can be found on our respective Twitch pages, which I believe some of us will be doing when this podcast goes live, or when it's after it's gone live and after the actual the edit comes out on Wednesday. So yes, Mr. Frazley, around the internet, where can people find you?
You can find me and all my podcasts at Frazley.com, Frazley. I'm on Twitter at Frazleytastic, and you can find my Twitch and all of my shenanigans like licking feet at gnome.live.
That took a dark turn. You can find me on Twitter at Titans Creed. You can find my gaming Twitter, which is literally just for the streaming and the videos and everything else, like this podcast. You can find over at Gaming Phoenix. You can find the vidcast of this podcast if you want to watch it in video form at youtube.com/Project Phoenix Productions. You can find me live over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Project Phoenix Productions. Thank you very much for joining us live, ladies and gentlemen, if you have, or for watching the VOD, or for listening to the podcast when it comes out on its normal time on Wednesday at 10:30 in the morning on a Wednesday in UK time. Frazley will probably tell me what time that is in... I could probably work it out, actually. Blah, 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 blah. 7. Oh, no, actually, I can't work that out. I'll work it out and I'll have it all that normal information. But thank you very much for joining us, guys. You'll find us around on a Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I want to say.
7:30 p.m. Eastern. Now, there will be at least 2 Sundays that I will have to migrate stuff.
There will be a couple of differing days where we'll be recording late over BlizzCon, I imagine. I might have to kick Frazley to the curb for the post-BlizzCon show and get some of the DPS guys in, I believe.
Yes, because I'll be flying during that time. So
yes, Mr. Frazley will be in the Anaheim area over BlizzCon.
Yep, and as I told Jin, as I told Jin of More Than Game Podcast, If I don't get a ticket, then I'll just be in the Starbucks having a nice pumpkin cold brew.
And abusing some free Wi-Fi. Thank you very much for watching and or listening, ladies and gentlemen. You can join us on all the respective social media. Join us as 8.3 develops, guys. We'll talk to you very soon. And as Mr. Frazley likes to always tell us,
be awesome. And if you can't be awesome, be a Mechanome.
That too. Or a Volpira. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next time.